What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel for this really quick video, and today I'll be talking about why your attributes seem useless. It's a common complaint on 2K that most players can't feel a boost even though they upgraded their attributes or they added some badges. So in this video here, I'll explain why and I'll give my opinion about it. And by the way, this one here is a 2-video series. This one will have 2 parts. First part will focus on movements, while the second part, which is on the next video, will focus on shooting and some other badges. And please watch the video fully because trust me, if you miss some parts, you might lose the whole context of the video and leave the video misinformed. It's not going to be that long anyway, so let's get right into it. So basically, common complaint even on the past 2Ks is that players can't feel much of a boost even though they upgraded their attributes and badges already. Some would say speed with ball, perimeter defense, this badge, that badge is useless, and so forth. It's a common issue on recent 2Ks. In here you can see, that's the gap between 25 and 99 agility, which looks small visually, and this one here is the gap between 25 and 99 speed. Even on shooting, it's really hard to feel if you just add a couple of points. And for speed with ball, this small gap here is your 40-point gap, which means if you cut it in half, that's your 20-point gap. And if you cut it in half again, that's your 10-point gap. In terms of speed though, the gap is a bit bigger, but still, it looks small. That's your 40, that's your 20-point gap, and that's your 10. You gotta keep in mind though that I need to run almost the whole length of the floor just to get that gap. So the gap will be smaller on shorter runs. And by the way, those gaps there could change for a bit depending on a lot of things like height, but it will give you an idea how small the gap is visually. So now for the big questions. Why all these boosts are so small visually? Is that even valid or is it even realistic? Or where did 2K get the idea that a 40-point gap of speed should be this small? So let's find out. So first, let's get a real-life perspective. This is from NBA.com, and on this draft combined batch, in terms of 3/4 sprints, the second slowest on this batch is 3.57, which is Rudy Gobert. And the fastest one is Donovan Mitchell, which took around 3 seconds only. So to give you a visual perspective of those numbers, it will look like this. So it means that in real life, on a pool of players which probably consists of hundreds of players with different positions, the gap between the fastest and the slowest one will be like this. I know it's not a perfect comparison because those are younger players, but even if you change their ages, it's going to be somewhere like that anyway. And now in 2K's perspective, here's the gap between a 7-footer, which usually will have 60 speed, and a 6'2 guard, which usually will end up around 90 speed. And here you can see, their gap is much bigger than the real-life comparisons that we had a while ago. So it means, even though this gap here looks small to you, that's about right. That's about the same if you compare it to real life, and in fact, it is much bigger. And I might say, oh, Jutes, can they do something about it? Like, maybe they can make the gaps bigger and make each points really more valuable. That's a really good question. But before we go right into it, just want to invite you guys to like the video so it can reach more viewers, especially at this point of the game cycle, views are really down. So your likes will really help this video reach more viewers. So now going back, I'll show you these. So let's say we want that 40-point gap to be bigger like this one. If 2K wants to achieve that, there are 2 ways to do it. First way is slowing down that 55 so the gap will be bigger. And here you can see the 55 speed with ball, which usually power forwards, will be slow like this one, which I don't think will look or feel realistic because you will make bigger builds really slow. One more way is to make that 95 speed with ball faster so the gap will be big. And if you want that route, the guards will be this fast, which doesn't look real as well. I know you can make them meet at the middle, but I still think that it won't look real. So now for the summary, I know it's really annoying that in terms of movements, adding some points to it feels like a waste of points because you don't notice it that much visually. But based on this test and observation, whatever the game has right now, it's about right. It should be that way. In the game of basketball, especially in the modern era, the speed gap between a small fast player and a taller slower player is not that much visually. After all, basketball is a game of inches, so the gaps may not look big visually, but those gaps there still really matter. So that's all for this one. Again, this is only the first part. I'll be having a second part which will explain why shooting stats and badges seem worthless. And if you haven't watched my most important video about community problems, just click that video there. It is worth a watch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.